Hey, I'm Wispy, and if you've been around for a while you might have noticed that digital is definitely my preferred drawing method, but surprisingly it hasn't always been that way. When I was younger I did a lot of traditional art, but of course because I was young not much of it was good. I've always loved the idea of going back to watercolors. I definitely prefer the idea of more tactile art mediums. However, I knew that despite my past experience I had a lot to learn. So today I decided to give watercolors another try, this time with my art school experience and the little tips I picked up along the way. Let's see how I did. So for a bit of context, I hope that by the end of my little watercoloring session I will be able to recreate this in a much better capacity. So as you can see there's a lot of it's very patchy. There's a few, obviously the anatomy is quite bad. This character only has 4 fingers, so obviously there's a lot I could improve in the anatomy department, but I'm more interested to see if I have improved in the actual technical skills department, just from, I guess, I haven't used watercolors in ages, so it would just be purely from an observational standpoint. Small side note, this is my character Belladonna, who you can learn more about by reading my webcomic Heartspell, link in the description. Although she had a different name at the time, this is actually the painting that inspired the character. She had a few different designs after this, but this design here is the one I'll be using today, as I think it will be fun to not just see how my drawing and painting skills have improved, but my character design too. So I have a few different sets of watercolors here. You can see my manky, gross old watercolors. So I'll be starting by trying my best to fill this with lots of studies and just trying out the materials and seeing how that goes. I have no idea what proper techniques or anything I should be using. This looks like it's a pretty flat coat. Bit more paint, make that a bit more saturated. Try and add a bit of a gradient in there. My next idea was to do, these tubes of paint are so old they're basically sealed shut. So for this next one I'm going to try and do something with a bit of texture to it. I think that's turning out pretty nice. So at the very least I think I can get a sky looking better than it did in my previous attempt. So I decided to do this part as voiceover so I can focus on the painting. Overall, I wanted to improve the composition, anatomy, and technique. I did this sketch on my iPad beforehand, so I had a rough idea of what I was going for, so I wasn't just winging it. I went for a sort of Victorian portrait look, inspired by that thorn border. I added more details to the border, such as more vines and belladonna flowers. I changed the pose to a close-up bust to focus more on expression, and so I wouldn't have to add in a ton of tiny details that would be hard to pull off. So off camera I lined the border and other parts I wanted to colour gold later with an ink pen, as well as the eyelashes to make them stand out. First I started by painting the background dark purple, then did a light purple wash over everything else to give all the other colours a hint of purple. This colour worked quite well for the lighter parts of the outfit. I will mention that for this artwork I upgraded from taking the colours straight from the tube and using a mixing dish. This was something I saw other watercolor artists doing, and was helpful especially when I mixed custom colors, especially because I didn't want the black to be too strong. Then I just painted in all the other colors and decided to stop for the day. On day 2, I started by painting Belladonna's witch's hat, a darker shade, then continued by adding in the shading and more colors everywhere else. As I mentioned before, I don't paint with watercolors anymore, so my process was very disorganized. Then I used watercolor pencils to add in some definition and outlines. For Belladonna's cat familiar, I outlined him with an ink pen, then coloured him black with an alcohol marker. I did the next parts mostly off camera since it's pretty boring and the watercolor is supposed to be the focus. I used a gold felt pen for the gold parts of her outfit and for the thorn border. I was considering changing up the colour palette for the border, but figured I changed so much I might as well keep something similar looking. Finally, I finished by colouring the outside with a black alcohol marker. And here's the finished artwork! I had a lot of fun doing this one, and it's given me some techniques I might use for future watercolour paintings. I hope you found the process at least mildly entertaining. Anyway, thank you so much for sticking to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe. And until I post next, stay safe and I'll see you then. Bye!